Our next keynote, I'm going to get right started, get right into it, started right now, and invite Adam to the virtual stage. A little bit about Adam before he takes that mic from me. Adam Luciano is the Senior Director of Product Management at Actian and is responsible for management of analytics products, inclusive of Avalanche and Vector, as well as AI and ML technologies. He previously worked at Liberty Mutual Insurance, where he built a homegrown data science platform. Previous to Liberty Mutual, Adam worked in digital marketing analytics, product management, product marketing, and healthcare technology, market research, and investment analytics on Wall Street. So Adam is going to be talking about how modern data analytics platforms are being used to uncover additional value from your data. So Adam, without further ado, the virtual floor is yours. I will hand you the mic.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Let me know if you cannot see my screen. Hopefully.
It looks good, Adam. If you could just put it in presentation mode.
Yep. Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much for joining this session. My name is Adam Luciano, as I just got introduced. So I'm Senior Director of Product Management for Actian Avalanche, as well as our underlying vector database technology. I've been with Actian for about 2 years now, and we've seen some really great success in the growth of the platform. It's a cloud-based platform. We also have on-premise solutions as well. So what are we talking about today? So we're going to be talking about our data warehousing and its importance, where some recent trends around data warehousing and why that could be applicable to new investments in data warehousing technologies. I'd like to talk about Actian Avalanche and how it fits into some new trends in data warehousing, and then additionally bring forward a use case around Customer 360, which I'll go into at more granular level. So to kick us off, technology is always going through new types of changes, right? There's hardware trends that might be impacting it. There could be software trends that might be impacting it. There could be outside external force trends that could be impacting it, impacting how we work, for example. So all these different aspects have impacts on how we're leveraging technology and specifically data. So from a data warehousing perspective, we have kind of like the 4 V's, if you will. We have volume, variety, velocity, and venue. So some of these things help reinforce each other. Let's start from the bottom. So venue, cloud. Cloud, you could think about it from a perspective of public cloud, things like Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft Azure. Or you could think about it from a perspective of your own private cloud on-prem. In the perspective of public clouds, this is a pretty interesting thing, and this is from a hardware technology and software technology perspective. When data is moved into the cloud, due to the fact that it's so cost-effective to store data in the cloud, you start to collect. It starts to give you some incentive to collect more of it. So which translates into volume from the cost-effective aspects of working with public cloud data. Additionally, as you grow those data sets and you increase your analytical capabilities, you typically now go into different realms of different types of data. It might not just be structured relational data. It could be things like video or photos, that come from, let's say, for example, things like Twitter or Facebook, logging systems, or things like that. So there's different varieties. It could be also web services, which has its own type of interfaces and challenges associated with working with it. And then it could be how fast it's coming in. So this could be in batches, right, where you're grouping sets of data together and then sending it somewhere. Or it could be coming in streaming. So as it happens, data is sent. So all of these self-reinforcing aspects are fueling the data warehousing market to grow by 50% at a compound annual growth rate. So we have data that's moving into clouds, right? So, and when it moves into clouds, typically other data follows it. So you can call that data gravity. It unlocks new use cases where you can utilize that new data set or data sets and think about how can I start to gather more value from this data. And the cloud economics aspect, where the flexibility of cloud, the fact that it's very cost effective to use it, and the fact that it's elastic, which effectively means that you use whatever you're using. You can either increase it, pay for that, or you can decrease it and decrease your overall cost structure. And then there were external forces. For example, COVID. COVID had many different impacts around how organizations work. Right, a lot of folks went remote. It forced folks to start to think about, what does my cost structure look like? Do I need to make some changes? Do I need to go to some more cost-effective business models? So these things are all driving cases where you're pushing things into cloud, okay? Coupled with the idea that more data analytics is being used for things like business intelligence, but also for things like machine learning. So all these things help reinforce each other to think about how we're leveraging new data warehousing technologies in cloud environments. So how has a data warehouse evolved? How have use cases evolved? So we did some analysis, or we worked with an organization called Deny Group, and they did some work for us to better understand how folks have been using data warehousing technologies, and what are some of the new use cases that they're using data warehouse technologies for. So if you look at this set of responses here, what you'll notice is that a lot of this focuses around financial related transactions, where those types of things are then surfaced up via dashboard, so that your financial managerial reporting, regulatory filings, revenue and demand forecasting, capital investment allocation analysis, all of those things typically kind of funnel in from financial groups. When you look at where are things going, so if you look at customer segment analysis is a big one. A lot of folks are interested in that. Product adoption, territory and geographic analysis, demand revenue forecasting. If you look at this, the big takeaway that you have from looking at this subsection of data is that it's different business functions that are using it, right? So in the past, you have financial related. Now we have more marketing, sales related, right? So how can I kind of think about that? So how you think about that, at least from what I could tell, is that they now have different resources of data that allow them to be able to use that data to make better decisions about marketing activities and sales activities, right? And that's bottom line. It's effectively bottom line in revenue, and has massive impacts to organizations that leverage it and are able to leverage effectively. So what are the top unfilled needs of data warehouse users? So as we talked about those 4 V's, what is driving some of the, I guess, dislikes about data warehousing technologies today? So I think if you look at this, we have ability to drill down dynamically in real time, records matching and data cleaning, and then automatic synchronization with the live data. So the first one and the third one have levels of similarity. It has to do with performance, which is a user experience aspect, and it has to do with real-time data feeds or web streaming data, where your underlying data source is being populated by data in a real-time aspect. And because of that, there might be folks where they're trying to utilize data warehouses, but that data is just not available, right? It could be in a place where it's trying to get loaded, or there could be lots of folks that are utilizing the warehouses concurrently. So there are some different aspects here that have to be considered. So utilization of your warehouse, what type of technology it is and can handle real-time data feeds, or working with web service-based RESTful APIs. And then additionally, records matching and data cleaning. This is your transformations, right? So integration technologies is also a really key component when you think about data warehousing. It doesn't live by itself. It lives in an ecosystem of different types of technologies that help utilize data sources, get the data into a ready state to be ingested, and through curation process into your data warehouse. And then from that perspective, you then utilize it for analytics purposes. So I'm expecting folks probably run into a lot of these different issues, and we talked to different customers about this. So it's and we've seen it resonate. So from perspective of critical factors associated with your modern data warehouse, you look at your types of data, right? So a structured data, which are things like probably generally from financial reporting. Semi-structured data is a lot of times web service API type related information. So getting things from Facebook, from Twitter, those kinds of things, as well as just other vendors' APIs. A lot of times you're in semi-structured formats, which can change. So you have to be able to work through that. Integration of those data sources into your data warehouse. There's performance aspects, and performance aspects are there's two real dimensions to thinking about that. There's the aspect of the user experience, where you interact with your data warehouse, and then the information comes back in a quick way, right? Because they're used to that from a customer experience perspective. Anytime you're navigating on the web, you see results come back quickly. So there's a general expectation when you're working with business intelligence tools or other types of analytical tools that those responses will be fast, right? There's the scalability aspect, and we'll go into that second dimension in a second. There's the scalability aspect. So working with cloud, how am I leveraging the cloud resources in a way that addresses my needs, and then it connects into the ability to be able to manage cost. How many users are connecting to your warehouse is a consideration, and this is applicable directly into organizations that, for example, like Snowflake, which is one of our competitors for Actian Avalanche. How do you deploy it? So you want to make sure that you could deploy it in the cloud, across any cloud that any public cloud. So Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud. And then additionally, if there's interest in doing on-prem, so you might have data that may not be able to get into the cloud, and that's a use case as well. For example, different types of healthcare data is an example that we hear quite a bit that cannot exist in cloud environments, really has to be behind a firewall. So then thinking about how you want to work with that different types of data can impact what type of selection process you have. Working with live data is a key consideration, and then your total cost of ownership, right? So, and there's two dimensions that connect total cost of ownership that you have to consider when thinking about a data warehouse. You have your performance aspect, right? Because since you're working with cloud, which is elastic, right? It's elastic both from a storage perspective, so how much storage you use, what is your storage footprint, and it connects to how much you pay for it. There's also your computation aspect. So as whatever you're using in the cloud is running, you're paying for that. It's effectively pay for what you need. But the key consideration there is that when it is not running, you're not paying for it at all. Storage sits there, right? So unless you're deleting something, it's gone. But on the performance side of things, that's a consideration. So if you have the flexibility within your overall solution to be able to turn it on and turn it off as needed, that has a direct implication to your total cost of ownership and your cost management for your solution. So all these different aspects are key considerations when you're thinking about your data warehouse technology. So to take a step back, who is Actian? Actian, we have been around for 30 years. We have a really good handle on the database market. A lot of our products are effectively databases. We have Actian Avalanche, which is our hybrid cloud data warehouse. We have data integration technologies. We have edge database technologies, for example, NoSQL, and all those types of things. We have a significant amount of patents. We have 24 of the Fortune 100 customers as clients for Actian, and you can see some of the lists down here: Samsung, Xerox, and so forth. So we've been around for a while. From a perspective of Actian Avalanche, what are some of the key considerations when you think about Actian Avalanche and where it positions effectively in the marketplace? So there's the aspects of performance, which is really our core DNA on Avalanche. It's connected to the cost savings. There's deployment considerations. There's how do you connect your data to it, and then eventually to your analytics functions. So here's an example of some work that we did with an independent organization to benchmark our data warehousing technology. There's a company called GigaOM that we used to run a test called TPCH. And what TPCH is, it's a standardized global benchmarking mechanism to benchmark data warehouse performance. It's 22 queries. and it's meant to really go to an extreme of testing your data warehouse engine. Okay, so we selected from a cloud perspective Avalanche versus Snowflake, AWS Redshift, Microsoft Synapse, and BigQuery. Okay, and we did it over two primary dimensions. The first dimension is your performance aspect. Second dimension is your price performance aspect. So what we found is that Avalanche is 8.5 times faster than Snowflake in a test of 5 concurrent users. We are faster than Redshift and Synapse and BigQuery. And then from price performance perspective, Avalanche is 6.4 times more cost effective than Snowflake. Why is this? You're probably asking yourself. So what is the benefits? What is the difference here? I think you could boil it down to two primary aspects. The first aspect is on the Avalanche side of things, we have a unique architectural advantage that leads to this performance gain. The biggest piece is we use vectorized processing. Vectorized processing is the ability to be able to crunch a set of data within one CPU clock cycle. And if you're using classical types of operations that are non-vectorized, you effectively can only do one single operation. We could do up to 1,000 operations within one clock cycle, which gives us our unique architectural performance advantage. From a perspective of what Snowflake and BigQuery, why they've not performed as well, from a Snowflake perspective, it has to do with they tend to have not as performant underlying infrastructure. So when you are running workloads on them, what happens is it spins up additional infrastructure to get faster, right? So the way they're doing it is I'm spending a multiple Snowflake warehouses sharing the load across that. And when I do that, there's some technical drawbacks to that. There's the latency associated with working with those different network instances. There's the associated cost working with that. So that's why you're going to get an increased cost structure with Snowflake. On the BigQuery side, they are really powerful when it comes to petabyte scale processing. That's what they're built for, right? So if you're throwing a lot of data on a petabyte scale, BigQuery really performs very well. But when you're talking about lower aspects, where you're talking about 10 terabytes throwing at it, 30 terabytes throwing at it, it's just really it's not designed as for that, so it does not perform as well in that respect. So from perspective of performance, right? So we talked about Snowflake, we talked about BigQuery. We are on the Avalanche side significantly faster. There's also another interesting aspect to consider here as well. Real-time data updates without performance penalties. We have a patented technology that allows us to be able to update our data warehouse without actual performance penalties during that time. So you could actually, once that data is ingested into the warehouse, it's accessible. Okay, so that's a pretty powerful capability as well from a performance perspective, and we could support up to hundreds of concurrent users without any kind of problem. Total cost of ownership. So really, this is the thing you need to roll for in cloud. So when it comes to cloud technologies, we've heard from folks that as you build deeper footprints with some of these other technologies, it can get very, very, very it can lead to higher costs. I think is the big thing. So if you could think about, I want to throw lots of different data into these environments, and then I want to run data warehousing analytics against those things. The more and more I do, the more and more costs associated with it, right? And the complexity associated with running those different things can spin up additional infrastructure, and it can lead to cost increases. Because of our architectural advantages and the way Avalanche is designed and deployed, we're significantly more cost effective than organizations like Snowflake. Deployment flexibility. So we deploy from an Avalanche perspective in a multi-cloud environment, so in Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud. Okay, we just built out a totally new deployment mechanism via Kubernetes. And Kubernetes fits in really nicely with also Google Anthos as well. So what this enables to do is enables us to leverage containerized technology in deploying our stack. Okay, so we have we also can deploy via Linux as well via on-prem. So it's a seamless path to migrate legacy for data warehouses, brings the computing power of Avalanche to where the data resides. The offerings are Avalanche Cloud, right? So we break it apart into management plane and data plane. Actian can manage that for you if you like. We have a managed VPC offering where you could split that into pieces, and your data could reside in your data plane, which would be within your own virtual private cloud. So we could deploy directly into that, via our Kubernetes stack, and we can manage certain aspects of it, like the console and everything like that, and the different associated mechanisms for that. Or you can run everything yourself if you have the experience working with Kubernetes clusters and you want to manage your own database infrastructure. Extensive native data integration capability. So, and I'm going to talk about this a little more in the context of the use case, but we connect into a variety of different data sources. We're able to work with those data sources to populate your target, which would be, in this instance, Avalanche, the cloud data warehouse. Avalanche can connect into data lakes and warehouses to work with data via external tables. We have certifications with multiple different technologies. On the business analyst side, Tableau, Power BI, MicroStrategy, Qlik, Looker, all certified, all connected to those things. ETL tools have connectors for that. So we have high performance at scale. We have 200 plus pre-built connectors to connect to your SaaS apps, deployment capabilities anywhere, separation of storage and compute, so you pay for only what you need, what you use on the storage side and the computation side, and you gain the cloud economic impacts right out of the box. And this all ties into your advanced analytics, right? Which is why you're here, why you're thinking about, hey, how do I extract the most value from my data? How do I get it into a digestible way, as a business analyst, to be able to analyze that and make decisions with that data that informs a downstream decision making. So let's talk about the use case. From a customer 360 perspective, we think about that as the customer, the whole customer, right? So what are some of the goals associated with this type of use case? So it could be profiling the customer. It could be from a segmentation perspective. It could be churn analysis. It could be things like campaign optimization, or things like next best action, where if I'm presented with a certain journey and I'm going through that journey, how do I make a decision about where to go next? I used to do this all the time when I was working for Liberty Mutual Insurance in marketing analytics, to really understand, and this is on the digital marketing analytics side, how to allocate capital across the customer's journey to be able to maximize my return on investment for my marketing budget. All those things, and that's connected to attribution of marketing activities onto things like, in those campaigns and across those journeys. How do you make those types of decisions? Additionally, there are definitely issues that come into when you're working through these different types of customer type journeys, in the sense that you have lots of complex customer interactions. The data could be complex and siloed in many different places. It's not generally all in the CRM. It could be in brick and mortar type things. It could be in digital, and it is somewhat disconnected, right? So there's all these different components here. Let's talk about some folks that have done really well on the Avalanche side of things when it comes to working through a customer 360 analysis. The basic problems at a high level, I won't go through all of this, but at a high level, we have data silos. There could be inconsistent data. There could be older technologies that don't really work really well with cloud technologies to be able to connect data into it. There could be performance aspects where you want to work with real-time data in things like retail. You want to have that. Not being able to do that can pose problems. Then you have additionally the data silos, right? So I have data in different places. How do I get it together? How do I use it to analyze data? So these different things here really focus around the optimization of revenue, predicting buying behavior, segmenting high-value customers. All these activities have revenue impacts. So it's important that your solution enables the capabilities to be able to make these types of decisions. So with the integration of things like Avalanche, what you get is, and Avalanche being data integration and your data warehousing, you're able to integrate with your data, get it from the different data sources, put it into a place where you can actually run it, connect to all the different tools, and it provides that value to you, right? So you get, in these cases here, with a technology company, with a retail company, with a payment company, you get your acceleration of revenue, ability to be able to make better decisions about campaigns in marketing, real-time predictive analytics, and be able to put your data into one place and be able to make decisions about payment technologies. So this is the reference architecture on the Customer 360 real-time analytics I want to walk through with you and spend some time around. So from this perspective here, we think about 5 different key activities. We have your customer profile aggregation, your analysis. There's the integration aspects that you have to consider. There's what types of tooling that you work with. And this is all powered by, if you think about it from a real-time perspective, with our patented technology that allows trickle update capabilities to support that real-time decision making. So let's talk about data sources. So you have data sources that reside in applications, and you have data sources that reside in web areas, right? So that could be things like RESTful API endpoints. That could be things from streaming services like Kafka, or Kinesis, or Google PubSub. From an application perspective, you could be talking about things like sales, things like Salesforce, Marketo, your customer service information, like things like ServiceNow. What could be on the marketing side of things, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, those types of things, CRM systems, ERP systems, all those different things that you can connect together to get that 360 view degree of the customer. Then how do you get that data in, right? So you could use different technologies to do that. We connect easily into Informatica, IBM Data Stage, or we have our own homegrown product, Data Connect, that's been around for a very long time and does very similar functionality. And you want to get that into Avalanche, right? So Data Connect is an on-prem solution as an FYI. So Avalanche exists in the cloud. You have your data integration capabilities. We have complete ANSI SQL, the vectorized processing, which I mentioned to you guys earlier. We have robust security. We use the best security technologies out there to make sure your data is safe. It's a lot of folks that we talk to when we talk about security. They have questions about it for folks who are a little bit earlier in their cloud journey. So Avalanche, we've invested a lot of resources into developing, making sure that we are really best in class when it comes to security. Avalanche also, like I said before, via external tables, can connect to data lake storage. And that's from the warehouse side of things. You can also connect into data lake storage from the integration side of things. So then you connect into your analytics. So you have, like I mentioned before, your visualization capabilities, data science capabilities. Data science is really important. When I was working at Mutual Insurance and built out their data science platform, we were heavily leveraging data warehousing solutions to be able to facilitate, those platforms, which enables you to hit the objectives like building customer profiles, being able to segment, being able to optimize those campaigns to really maximize the utility of your dollars spent on different types of things. So in summary, you're able to get via the Actian Avalanche platform a really strong view of what that customer looks like all around, right? And that's what you really need. You need to get the data from every different place to be able to consolidate that data and run analytics on it to see where that value is, see where those things are. To take a step back, there's kind of 3 key components, right? There's accessing of data, enriching the data, analyzing the data, and then acting. And throughout that entire process, we have different tools that can help enable that, right? So you saw that slide before. There's lots of different technologies that enable this. Acting is part of that picture, but it's definitely not all of it, right? But what does it give you? It gives you the cloud aspects, the cloud benefits, gives you the performance aspect, and it contributes to a lower total cost of ownership for the entire solution. So I hope that you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you very much for joining, and I'm happy to take questions now if you guys have some.
Hi, Adam. I'm here. Let's squeeze in one question, and then I think we'll be at time. Why is performance such a significant aspect in consideration of selecting a data warehouse?
Absolutely. So the big thing there is really 2 aspects. So you have your costs, right? So you have your what does my total cost of ownership look like, and you have your user experience. User experience is a big piece to this, right? Because when you interact with these types of technologies, you want to be able to have the expectation that they're going to work really well, and they're going to come back quickly with results. And additionally, this is infrastructure, right? And you have costs associated with it, and you want to be able to maximize the utility of that, and use it. And having really strong performance enables you to turn off resources when you're in the cloud, right? So you can manage those costs really effectively. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking with all of you.
Thank you so much, Adam.